A lot of people have said a lot about you, Ojukwu, and your activities. They seem to liken your activities to the activities of Ojukwu when he was young, before the Biafra war.
Yeah.
How do you see that?
Oh, well, I leave that to them, and I think by a large extent they are right. You know, because I studied Ojukwu, you know, through the books while I was young, and read about all he did. And I liked him from the onset, and I liked what he did. So all this motivated me. That when I looked at his efforts and how the war ended in 1970, I felt angry. I felt that his ideas, his mission, or the purpose for the war must be actualized. And that was why when I went to the secondary school, I started thinking about all these, and coincidentally I stumbled onto Mahatma Gandhi, and I read about him, and I saw how actually he was able to get independence for India through non-violence. So I felt that non-violence would be the appropriate mechanism to achieve a sovereign state of Biafra instead of war. So you see, the only difference is that perhaps Ojukwu was a general in the army, and he was a military officer, and he adopted the declaration of Biafra through the way he did. And mine, being a student of Gandhi, and adopted my own system through non-violence, but the objective is the same. The agenda is the same.
From what we read, that Ojukwu never supported MASSOB at the beginning. But later, he brought you in, and was in fact your father, per se, was in fact your advisor, was in fact almost everything that gave you the encouragement. How did you meet Ojukwu for the first time?
It's a very long story, but the fact is that before I found MASSOB, I had worked with him for close to 10 years. I mean, one-on-one. So, I was working with him. I actually wanted to introduce the issue of Biafra, or rather, we introduced the issue of Biafra by so many means. I realized that law was to be studied at a second degree. So I had to begin a study in political science, where I had other opportunity to study non-violence movement and Mahatma Gandhi himself. So I started everything in Nigeria.
Okay, you started in Nigeria. You said political science. Does that mean that you dropped law?
No. No. In India, before professional courses like law and medicine are done at postgraduate level. So I studied political science as a first degree, which qualifies me to read law. So I started law afresh from the first year as a full course. In India, you can't study law as a first degree. You must have the first degree in any of the social sciences before you are permitted to read law.
You lost the ambition to form MASSOB in India, or the notion came to you when you arrived in Nigeria?
I can say that the notion was circumstantial, in the sense that when I was in India, I wasn't really thinking about a revolution per se. I just went to India to understudy Mahatma Gandhi and see a way Biafra could be actualized through non-violence. You understand it? So I didn't have any notion about MASSOB or any other organization. But after MASSOB was circumstantial because of the violent circumstances at that particular time regarding Obasanjo's administration.
When you say prevalent circumstances, there must be something that triggered your mind
Yes, yes, that's what I'm saying. You know, when I came into Nigeria and went to the law school and all that, it was called Tuba. Then, this guy died, Sani Abacha died, and Absalami Abubakar came on board. Then Absalami lifted the ban on politics. Then Obasanjo was in detention. So it came up that the Yoruba was asked to produce the president, where Olufalaye and Obasanjo were the contestants. So it happened that Ohaneze Igbo was to adopt Olufalaye through Ben Mwapeze, who was then the Secretary General of Ohaneze Igbo. But I felt that Igbo should support Obasanjo because I felt that Obasanjo, being a general and or rather a retired general, and given the circumstance of his detention and release, that he would have had a lot of experience, that would make him a better statesman to govern Nigeria. So I supported Obasanjo and was able to convince the youth that Obasanjo would make a better president. So after the election, Obasanjo won. We expected a lot from his administration. So, but what actually he did was disappointing to me because among the 12 Security Council members, because constitutionally 2 Security Council members were supposed to come from each Ojukwu zone, but he picked from all the Ojukwu zones and didn't pick anyone from the southeast. But he picked 4 from the southwest, Yoruba area. And when people started criticizing him, he was asked why he did so. He said, one, that there was no major general from the southeast. He was reminded that even during his regime, after Murtala Mohammed died, that Sheikh Musa Yaradua was promoted from a colonel to a major general to be his second in command. So he had a lot of, someone that is often temperamental. So he said, as for the people defeated in the war are not supposed to talk for the next 200 years. So that angered me personally. I felt that the issue of the Biafra Nigeria war has gone, and that for anybody to make reference to it is, food for thought. I felt, okay, since he's making reference to the same issue, that the Biafra issue should continue. So that was what motivated me at that particular time to form MASSOB. So that was why I said it was circumstantial. I had wanted to use Igbo organizations to start Biafra, the issue of Biafra. So it was through this issue of Igbo organizations that brought me closer to Ojukwu. Because I was the chairman of Igbo Council of Chiefs, Lagos State.
That was what year?
1994, 95, 96. Around that time, I was the chairman. So my idea was to get all Igbo organizations in Lagos under the Council of Chiefs, which I did. I was instrumental to the formation of Igbo Lagos. As a matter of fact, I constituted Igbo Lagos. And the Igbo speaking states in Lagos. I formed all these things, but asked people to man them. But I was supervising. I wanted to use all these organizations to showcase Biafra again. But it didn't work out because most of the people were afraid. They didn't even want, due to this time, nobody there mentioned the word Biafra. Because at that time, it was a pretty big taboo. So the people admitted the idea to run away. So I decided to form MASSOB. So it was when I was the chairman of Igbo Council of Chiefs that I met Ojukwu. Actually, the issue was that first, so many issues came in. When he was declared Ezigbo, Ohaneze kicked against him by buying up all the media houses, newspaper houses to denounce him. So I wasn't in support of what Ohaneze was doing. So I called press conferences supporting Ojukwu. By then I didn't know anything about. I didn't know Ojukwu. I hadn't met him the first time, but he was reading most of the things I was saying in the papers. Moreover, there was this Post Express Lagos, by Sonny Ojukwu, was the publisher. So the paper head propagating my views about Ojukwu. So, but what actually made me meet Ojukwu the first time was when there was crisis in Lagos arising from Abiola's debacle. Because when Abiola was denied the presidency stuff, the Yorubas revolted. There was killing in Lagos and all that. So in the morning, wake up in the streets, you see non-indigenous being killed and all that. So I called a meeting of non-indigenous in Lagos, comprising Igbos, Hausas, Igbos, all these other people that were not Yorubas. So we met, and in that meeting we resolved that we should approach two prominent Nigerians. That's one from Igbo, one from Hausa, to meet General Marwa. So that time was a big colonel, to tell him about the unsafe situation or the security issue surrounding non-indigenous in Lagos. Also, PC was killing non-indigenous arbitrarily. So we selected Ojukwu and ND Hamza, that the businessman, because he was living in Apapa then. So we decided to meet Ojukwu first. So I went to Ojukwu's residence at Prince Drive and dropped a letter, telling us our intentions. So then Ojukwu was in Enugu, but because of that he flew down to Lagos. He told his PA, Obonyama, that anytime he came to Lagos he would get in touch with us. So when he came back, phoned us to say Ojukwu was around. So all the non-indigenous, the leaders comprising Igbos and Hausas and other interest groups gathered in my house. We went to Alaska Lodge, Ikoyi. So it was the first time Ojukwu could see me, but he was reading all I was saying about him. So after the meeting, he accepted to meet on our behalf and all that. So after the meeting, he helped me and asked me to stay behind. So I stayed behind. It was then that he asked me to come back the next day and talk with him. So after we had gone, the next day I came back and we sat and discussed the affairs of Igbo. So from there he saw, the burning desire to work on Igbo in me. So I became his, can I say, unofficial PA. So I mean, like when he was going to Marwa, he had to go with me and the council members, and I was chairman of the Chiefs. So not only Marwa, he started taking me to prominent, Nigerians, from Rotimi Williams to these big people. Even when Abacha died, I went with him to Abacha's funeral. We became very close, and so when the issue, I decided to form MASSOB. The opinion of the people was that it was Ojukwu's idea, because they knew I was very close to Ojukwu. At times he asked me if he wanted to say anything to the media. He asked me to say it to the media. I would call a press conference and say, this is Ojukwu's position on this. I was doing it, and people saw me as his media person. So when I started MASSOB, it was very difficult for people to say that Ojukwu didn't know about it. And unfortunately, he didn't know about it. As a matter of fact, he was in the United States when I declared Biafra in Aba, and he read it like every other person, and he felt betrayed in the sense that I was supposed to let him know, but I didn't let him know. And when later, because actually, when people said he criticized me, he did, because he was right to do that, because I didn't tell him. And all these prominent Nigerians had seen him, me with him, either in public places or visiting them. So it was like, is it not that young man who came with Ojukwu the other day in this place and that place? So he was disappointed. So at that time, the Obasanjo invited him and Ojukwu when I declared Biafra. So he said that it was infantile. That was the language he used. It was right, because I didn't tell him. But later when he called me back, he asked me the reason why I didn't tell him. I told him that I didn't want him to stop me from doing it. Because if I had told him, he would say, no, don't do it, and I would have stopped. Well, I didn't want to stop, because I wouldn't disappoint, I wouldn't disobey him. That was what I told him. So initially, he was disappointed. Not disappointed in Biafra, but for the fact that I didn't tell him. So, but later he saw that Biafra was his product, it was the product he manufactured. So, and for the love he had for Biafra, so it was impossible for him to petition anybody that was to continue with that episode. So he brought me back.
When Ojukwu died, you were conspicuously absent, and a lot of people are worried.
It was planned, it was an agreement I made with Jonathan, that MASSOB, because before Ojukwu was buried, the Senate, the motion was tabled at the Senate, and they said Ojukwu was not to receive a state burial, given their reasons. So they had already dropped the idea. But later, we had some discussions. Jonathan intervened, and because when they threw away the motion, MASSOB, we got prepared to bury Ojukwu. I had even concluded arrangements to, I had even made some payments to helicopters and all that. For 7 days, I would carry Ojukwu body to the different states. When Jonathan realized all this, so he talked. He said that he wants to call me, or he wanted to call me, and that he wanted Ojukwu to begin the national burial, and that was what I really wanted. That he said there's no way he could share it in MASSOB. He wanted me to agree with him. So we had so many discussions. At the point, both the Chief of Army Staff, Ojukwu and others, we are involved. So we agreed that Ojukwu to receive the national burial that MASSOB should play in the ceremony. We agreed. It was an agreement. The only person that knew about it was Jessica's wife. All these people they were not part of it. They didn't even know when the meetings were held. So, but Jonathan knows, people who were supposed to know knew about it. So, I know people will be disappointed, but then I achieved my purpose to give Ojukwu the biggest burial on earth, because I said it in his house. I think when I was receiving visitors there, I said that Ojukwu will receive, his burial will be the best in Africa. But at the end of the day, it became the best in the whole world. I can tell you authoritatively that outside Jesus Christ, I've not seen anybody's burial as big as that of Ojukwu. Yes, and I stand to challenge it. So I got more than even I thought I could get. I wanted to be a monumental success. And when I saw Jonathan coming, I withdrew because I had achieved what I wanted.
Ojukwu Ikemba was a visionary. He was a quintessential human being. He was the man who saw tomorrow. He was an Igbo icon. He fought for the entire Igbo race. He fought for the emancipation of the Igbos. He fought to make the Igbos have a sense of belonging and in the entity called Nigeria. He sacrificed his life, he sacrificed his father's wealth, he sacrificed his comfort to ensure that the Igbos were not humiliated. Ojukwu is true that he's dead, but we have a replacement in the person of Chief Ralph Uwazurike, a student of Gandhi. He studied Gandhi properly when he was a student in India, where he read political science and law. This is a gentleman who had been incarcerated more than 16 times by the Nigerian authority. Still, he was not deterred. He continued to pursue the Igbo-ness. He continued to ensure that the Igbos have a place in Nigeria. And today, it is paying off. Just recently, during the killing of the Igbos in the north, he sent about 20 buses to evacuate women and young children who could not afford to come back home. Ralph is somebody who can blow a whistle today and over 2 million people will gather, even without asking for a transport to go back. You don't buy leadership, you work for leadership. I think he has worked for leadership. And that is why the Ezenri, MASSOB conferred on him the Ijelendi Igbo, the senior masquerade, and in fact gave him the Ofondi Igbo. Ofo is a symbol of authority in Igbo land, and it's the same Ezenri during the time of Eze Tabansu Dele that gave Ojukwu Ofo Ndigbo, the same in the Asian kingdom that is acclaimed to be the origin of the Igbo race, deemed it fit to recognize Ralph Uwazurike as Ijelendi Igbo and gave him the Ofondi Igbo. People recognize him, recognize his effort. Unlike before, he was seen as a radical. When non-Igbo sons and daughters are rallying around, he has gotten a lot of acceptance by the Igbo race.
Ojukwu is beyond rating. When you talk of an icon, people like Ojukwu come once in a while in history. And it's like saying, how do you rate great men of society over the years? Ojukwu was a great man, a visionary. As you say, a man who even came before his time. What is happening in this country today was what Ojukwu foresaw by 30, 40 years, 50 years ago. And all his predictions have come to pass. And more importantly, all those people who did not celebrate him 30, 40 years ago have come to realize that Ojukwu represents a nascent Nigeria, a new Nigeria, a courageous. Ojukwu is a symbol of the strength, the industry, the hard work of the Igbo man, which if Nigerians had adopted 30, 40 years ago, Nigeria would have been a lot better than it is today. Again, I make bold to say that Ofo being given to our brother, our leader, Uwazurike, is symbolic. It's symbolic because from where it comes from, Ngri is the ancient kingdom of the entire Igbo race. And if you have studied various research works on the history and origin of the Igbo, all have led back to Ngri as the ancestral home of all Igbo people. And anybody that has received the Ofo or from the Ezenri has received their spiritual and physical authority to be the leader of Igbo. And this is not just peculiar to us. The Yoruba race, you have the Ife, the Ife dynasty. If you are that's from where they draw their strength. For the Muslims draw from the Caliphate. We must have something. We have something, and it is good that Igbos have come to realize that we must go back to recreate our past. When people say Igbo enwe, I laugh because that's a saying that is derived from ignorance. Because if Igbo enwe, where did the word Eze emanate from the first instance? Igbo enwe. That's why we say Igbo Haneze. It's just that the Igbo Eze, the Igbo king, is not as autocratic as other kings. He rules with the people. So for Ezenri to appreciate the role Uwazurike has played, let us not miss the fact. But for Uwazurike's leadership today, even the support and strength he gave to Ikemba, the Igbo race would have been far back behind than we are today, even though we have not made much progress. But his struggle, his determination to fight for the Igbo race has more than any other effort made by any other organization, has come to position the Igbo people as a formidable force, which we are in the current Nigeria. So I encourage our brother not to be distracted. I encourage the younger generation to accept that we must attend. God provides leadership. Nature abhors vacuum. The exit of our leader, Ojukwu, should not leave us leaderless. In any case, who else is there to lead? Everybody has checking out. Is it our government officials? We must have a leadership that is honest, determined, and committed, and courageous to confront the challenges we face as a nation, as indeed, wherever we are in the world. That's my take.
Ojukwu stood for the emancipation of the Igbos. Ojukwu came to fame at a time when the Igbos needed an emancipation, and he stood firm to the challenge. Tried his best to secure peace in Nigeria by attending the Akuri conference, where the confederation was resolved. Unfortunately, one failed to implement it. He didn't stop there. Unfortunately, being the man he is, he was persuaded by the people to declare a Republic of Biafra, despite the urge by his father not to at the time, because the father had been the wealthiest black man by 1966, had the connection to buy enough weapons for that struggle. Ojukwu represents the leader of all leaders, the world leadership among the Igbos, because he rose to the challenge when the Igbos needed a needed a man, fame and courage, and of course wealth and knowledge to have attempted what he did. So for the Igbos, Ojukwu remains a leader of all leaders.
There's a vacuum in leadership, Igbo leadership.
Apparently there is, but then fortunately we know that somebody understood him, somebody was very close to him, and in life he he anointed a son, and that son, if you may wish to know, is Barrister Uwazurike, the leader of the MASSOB.
Do you think that Uwazurike can assume such a position of Ojukwu as the Igbo icon or Igbo leader?
I think so, because apart from the fact that he is a non-violent freedom fighter, but he has done things no the Igbo man has been able to do. This man has been incarcerated over 16 times for the cause of the Igbos. He's a man who will never abandon his people, no matter what danger that confronts them at any particular time. As evidence that when they went for an award and his men were arrested, and he was asked to go without them, he refused. He said he cannot go without them. Again, it is on record that the Biafra veterans who were stationed in Uji under extreme, harsh environment, were recently relocated to Oniu, where they are accommodated in self-contained flats. Let's take, for instance, at the height of the Boko Haram onslaught, he was the only Igbo man who could muster the courage, the resources as well, to hire luxury buses to evacuate women and children, from the north. No other person was able to do it but himself. And of course, you know very well that as I talk to you now, he's constructing a memorial, as a civic center, and of course library in memory of Ojukwu. So he's already wearing the crown, and I think the cap perfectly fits, because he has the resources, he has the manpower, he has the popularity, he has everything it takes to occupy that position, and he's doing it very, very well.
Ojukwu was my commander during the war. I fought under Ojukwu in Biafra. And the people take Ojukwu that time as a demigod. Ojukwu was being seen as above human being. Whatever Ojukwu says it happens in the next 1 minute. What Ojukwu saw about 50 years ago, we are seeing it now. So Ojukwu cannot be described as an icon. Ojukwu is above icon.
Recently, you were at Inri during the confinement of Igel and Igbo on Rap Uwazurike. Do you think it's proper to have given Rap Uwazurike such an honor?
When I learned that the Eze, the Ancient Kingdom, will be giving Uwazurike of Igbo to replace Ojukwu, I thought that was a joke. I decided to make sure that I was present at that occasion. And I left here and got there with my camera. I recorded it, and I was very happy to be part of that ceremony. Number one, Uwazurike, the risk he has taken in life, I don't think there's anybody who has taken such risk after Ojukwu. This is the only person. When he started, my thinking that time was that they will kill this man. Nigerians, what is going on in Nigeria? This man was talking just like as Ojukwu was vehemently talking about Igbo. So I was thinking that the military may descend on this man. But finally, because he's a lawyer, he knew where he's going to be. So he knew his ways. So I was happy, and because it is not easy to come out to challenge a government of your country, to let them know what is being advocated as Biafra sovereignty. We fought Biafra sovereignty for 3 years, we couldn't succeed. And somebody came again to start that struggle again. In fact, that man is a wonderful man. Being an Igbo leader is not giving somebody money, dashing people money. When Eze compared Uwazurike, Igel and Igbo, I said, yes, these people have made a nice choice. You cannot make yourself a leader. It is people who make you the leader. Some governors think that if you are governor, you are not a Igbo leader. No. Igbo leader, you cannot be a leader by yourself. Or the public will say, this is our leader. Whatever you do, Uwazurike is the only man, as far as I'm concerned, who will talk now on behalf of the Igbos. People at Abakaleke, people at Odesha, people at Enugu, people at Were, people at Port Harcourt, Calabar, Uyo, everywhere. They will, if we ask them to assemble, that you see people coming from all these places to come and hear Uwazurike. It's not easy.
Uwazurike, he is too much. He has something right here, but people don't really know about that man. Even when Ojukwu was alive, when you look at Ojukwu, this is Uwazurike. If you go to Ojukwu, you ask certain questions. If you ask Ojukwu certain questions, okay, hold on. He will call, okay, Wandibo. Bia, come. Then he will consult, okay, Wandibo. Then before he give you the answer.